Good morning, meteorologist Bob here for you with today's tropical update for Wednesday, August 17, 2011. Well, a few features we're watching out in the tropics today. We have Invest 93L. This is the one that's hashed 30% chance by the National Hurricane Center this morning. They're saying there's no signs of surface circulation. Pressures have not fallen. That is true. Looking a little better organized on the first visible shots this morning, so it might be trying to get itself together. Hurricane hunters continue to be on standby with this system. If it does get better organized, we would see them flying this system in the afternoon, although I don't think that's really going to happen today. We'll just have to see what happens the rest of the morning here. I'll just show you where that one will be possibly going on. It'll be happening with this system in a few here. And we also have another system out here which will probably get hashtagged in the next day or two. We might see our next invest out in the eastern central Atlantic here. I'll show you that in a minute as well. Let's look at the satellite view first for Invest 93L. This is the first visible shots this morning, and you can see some thunderstorms trying to consolidate around this mid-level circulation here. Nothing at the surface yet, but if you look carefully, we might start seeing some surface circulation trying to get itself together here by looking at the cloud pattern to the south. So, could be on its way today slowly. We'll have to see the trend there. It has stayed weak, which is shifting it farther and farther west. Basically, we probably have about another 36 to 48 hours with this system before it runs into land. Here's Nicaragua, Honduras. It'll be key whether it develops. If it stays pretty weak, it's going to go straight west. So we're probably looking at around a Honduras landfall as a tropical depression, tropical storm. If it get itself together in the next 24 hours, it might slip a little farther north, and that could then bring it into just north of Honduras here, and then maybe a stronger system into Belize. So that's really what we're going to be watching for in the next couple days with this system. Not a threat to the United States, not moving into the Gulf of Mexico. Widening the picture out here today, we have a trough along the east coast, nothing developing along that at the moment. Again, here's 93L, and again, as I was saying, if it does get a little stronger, it could move north of Honduras, give it a little more time over water, and then maybe a stronger system into Belize. So this will be the area we're watching for 93L. Nice little anticyclone over it this morning, by the way. Wind shear is great, probably throughout its forecast here until it makes landfall. So if we could get something to finally spin down to the surface, we could see steady development with this one. But again, time is on its side. A little convergence here east of the islands, nothing going on there. And then peeking out here, and we'll put latitude and longitude on here. This one's at about approaching 35 west. Is our next potential system and potential invest. You see all these milky clouds in here, a lot of dust and dry air associated with this system at the moment. Again, this will be one to watch once it gets to that magical 55 west area and closer to the islands. And I'll show you, we have a lot of model consensus in developing this system, and I'll show you all that in a moment. Widening the view out here, the WSI satellite view here, you can see everything lining up here. Here's 93. Here could be our next possible invest. And then we also have another one coming off the African coast here. And again, this milky appearance here, this is all that dust and dry air. So these systems that are moving off Africa right now are encountering a lot of that dry air and dust and not being able to develop until they get farther west. That's also bad news too, because at least for the islands and possibly down the road for the United States, because the weaker they are in the beginning, the farther west they'll move initially. And then again, I'll show you where this may or may not go in a few minutes here. Vorticity this morning, 850. You can see kind of a weak area of vorticity with our Invest 93L at 850, but it's getting there. Like I said, it's slowly getting there, and again, would not be surprised to see tropical depression or tropical storm with this system in the next 24 hours or so, 24 to 36, before it makes landfall. The next name would be Harvey. We have Harvey and Irene next on the names. And then again, pretty stretched out, broad area of vorticity out here with our next system that we'll be watching. and this could be our next invest in the next day or two. Shear. Again, Invest 93L has a little anti-cyclone over it now. Shear forecast, very good for Invest 93L. Again, if it could get a surface circulation going, I could see that one developing. Big tut feature out here. What's going to happen with this wind shear here, as this system moves west, this should start to lift away anyway. So we won't see this stronger wind shear here to the north of the islands once our potential system here in the central Atlantic makes it there. So probably under a good area for shear. Shear forecast looks good for this system here. And again, our Saharan air layer, as you could just see it on the satellite view, a lot of milky, dry, dusty air out here. MJO isn't there yet, and you could really see when the MJO is not in our region, you see these systems really struggle. And I'm going to show you in a moment where the MJO is really going to make a big appearance coming up here in the next few weeks. And if that happens, and you see the African wave train is already starting, and these systems are pretty vigorous coming off the African coast. If we have upward motion MJO, we could be in for tracking a lot of storms here by the end of this month into the beginning of September. So again, just putting that out there. Nobody to panic or anything. Just showing you the possibilities out there right now. Okay, model runs. This is Invest 93L. Again, most likely a westbound motion here, getting close to Honduras. Some of the GFS ensemble models keep the system very weak and actually move it more towards the west-southwest, towards Honduras here. But it looks like Nicaragua, Honduras. If it gets a little stronger, you see these dotted lines here. This is the HWRF model that's been consistently predicting this to possibly become a hurricane. It would move a little farther north, a little more time over water, and then more towards Belize. So that's what we'll be watching for in the next few days. Anybody traveling down here in the next few days, just be aware that this is out there and could cause you some travel problems. Intensity models on Invest 93L. Again, a lot of them in the tropical storm range, some of them fairly weak. Again, we'll have to see. Again, it has to get that surface circulation before we really discuss anything with this system. Okay, GFS model. This is going out the next 10 to 14 days. And here's our possible next system here, moving across the island chain and then almost an East Coast runner. And you can see a lot more systems developing behind it. Again, if you follow this system, GFS really doesn't start cranking it again until it gets closer to the islands. And then, where does it go? North of the islands, south of the islands. How strong will this little trough be across the East Coast to pick it up? As I was showing you, what we see with the trend, and boy, the GFS and the Euro are pretty close together in the 7 to 10 day forecast lately, which is pretty scary in a sense that these storms would come closer to the United States. When both of these models are so on board, you start saying, hey, this is probably going to happen. We don't see a very pronounced East Coast Western Atlantic trough, so it's not really going to be picking up these systems and cooking them out to sea. Kind of have a weak trough pattern across the East Coast, and that tends to bring these systems mostly as East Coast runners or possibly into Florida if they move north of the islands. And then every now and then, because this is what I was telling you a few weeks back, if we get a little western runner through the Caribbean, then they just move farther west because this trough isn't strong enough, and we've seen that with Invest 93L. So remember I was telling you the two different tracks we'll probably be seeing with systems, and that's what we're going to be seeing. So it all depends on how strong the system gets, near the islands. The stronger it gets, the more it's going to be affected and move more poleward to the north. The weaker it goes. We saw Invest 93L not even do much, and it ran west into the Caribbean. So we really don't know anything. I mean, take these models with a grain of salt right now. We know what the overall pattern will be, but we don't know the strength of these systems. So that's why it's really hard to say, hey, I mean, if it stays weak, it could go back into the Caribbean again like Invest 93L. But if it can start getting going near the islands, then, we'll see it track more towards the United States. And again, trying to spin up more systems off the African coast. And here's the Euro model next 10 days. And again, eerily similar to the GFS. Again, spinning up our system as it gets closer to the islands. And then that same almost track like the GFS almost near Florida, maybe an East Coast runner. And again, spinning another system off the African coast in about 7 to 10 days. UK Met model, this is showing late Sunday, early Monday again, system near the islands. So you see model consistency. Again, no worries if you live along the East Coast, Florida, no concerns right now. We have a long way off to watch this, but just be aware that it's out there. And then showing the model differences, this is 10-day 500 millibar heights here, comparing the Euro with the GFS. And you can see, not a pronounced East Coast trough. We've kind of had it here. GFS is a little more pronounced than the Euro. But again, this kind of pattern, if these systems move near the islands or to the north, they tend to be East Coast runners or into Florida. But then every now and then we get one sneaking farther west through the Caribbean. Well, these troughs aren't strong enough to really pick it up, and then they just move straight west. So those are the two tracks that I would expect. Texas, yeah, unfortunately, don't we want to see rain? This kind of pattern doesn't really have that setup where they want to move towards Texas. So fortunately for you guys, still in the dry term. Last but not least, MJL, as I've been saying, it's coming back. Octant 1. You see all the ensemble GFS models. This is for the rest of the month, bringing it back into our area. And then the next 15 days here through the end of the month, you see the green, upward motion. MJO is coming. And be prepared to see a lot of storms begin to spin up here. All right, that's it for today's tropical update. I will have another update in the next day or two. If you want to follow me on Facebook, it's Robert, ACANFRIO. Have a great day.